Just imagine, a thief comes into your house by pretending to be a baby. Now what kind of trouble will this trickster create? That's what this story is about. The story starts with a thief named Calvin. Right now, Calvin is in jail because of a robbery case. One day, he asks another prisoner to count his push-ups. It looks like Calvin is a strong and tough man and all the prisoners respect him, but on the day Calvin gets released from jail, everyone sees the truth. He is actually only 3 feet tall, a very short man. His partner Percy, another thief, comes to pick him up from jail, but by mistake, Percy hits Calvin's head with the car door. After that, Percy tells Calvin about their next plan. They have to steal a very valuable diamond. If they succeed, they will get $1,00,000. Calvin agrees because he is not afraid of jail anymore. Now we see a young couple named Daryl and Vanessa. Daryl wants to have a baby soon, but Vanessa wants to focus on her career for a few more years. One day, Vanessa invites Daryl in a restaurant for dinner. But before anyone eats, Daryl suddenly shouts, "I'm going to be a dad!" Everyone claps and cheers. But then Vanessa says, that's not the real good news. The actual news is, Vanessa gets a big promotion at work. Daryl feels a little sad, but still congratulates his wife. They already argue a lot about having a baby. Meanwhile, Calvin and Percy start their diamond stealing mission. Percy puts Calvin inside a bag and takes him into a jewelry shop. While Percy distracts the manager, Calvin quickly comes out of the bag, steals the diamond, and hides back inside. At the same time, a small dog starts chasing Calvin and accidentally hides in the bag with him. When the dog's owner hears sounds from the bag, she thinks Percy is stealing her dog. Percy runs away, and the shop manager sees that the diamond is missing. The manager immediately calls the police. Calvin and Percy run into a nearby store to hide, but the police follow them. Coincidentally, Daryl and Vanessa are also shopping in the same store, and they are still arguing about having a baby. Calvin sees an opportunity and secretly hides the diamond in Vanessa's bag so the police don't catch him with it. Because of this, the police leave without arresting anyone. After that, Calvin and Percy follow Vanessa and Daryl to their house. At the house, Vanessa's father, Pops, is also there. Pops does not like Daryl at all. He thinks Daryl is not good enough for his daughter. Pops even suspects that Daryl can't have children because there might be a problem with him outside the house. Percy waits with a gun. He plans to snatch the diamond from Vanessa, but Calvin says they should stay calm and make a better plan. Suddenly, they see a baby cradle outside the house. Percy gets an idea. The next day, Percy shaves Calvin's beard, puts on a diaper, and lies inside a baby basket and leaves the basket outside Vanessa's door. When Daryl opens the door, Calvin starts making baby noises. Daryl thinks Calvin is a real baby and brings him inside the house. Later, when Daryl and Vanessa change Calvin's diaper, they get shocked because they see a gun hidden there, but they don't think much about it. They try to call child services to report the baby, but the office is closed for the whole week, so they decide to take the baby, Calvin, to the doctor. Doctor sees a tattoo and a surgery scar on the baby's arm, but still, the doctor says the baby is completely fine and sends him back home. After that, Calvin secretly runs away with Vanessa's purse, trying to hide from everyone, but on the way, a police officer picks him up and takes him back to Vanessa. Calvin starts calling Vanessa mom, which makes her very emotional. She decides that until the real parents are found, she will take care of him herself. Meanwhile, Percy meets a dangerous gangster named Walken. Walken thinks Calvin and Percy ran away with the diamond. Walken gives them a warning. If they don't return the diamond within 24 hours, they will be killed. Back at home, Pops does not like Calvin at all, but for his daughter's happiness, he stays quiet. That evening, Daryl throws a welcome party for Calvin. Some of their friends come to the party, and none of them find Calvin cute. Meanwhile, Calvin can't control himself when he sees Vanessa's beautiful friends. He even climbs into the lap of one of Vanessa's friends. When she comes close, Calvin suddenly kisses her very hard. Everyone feels very awkward, but they try to ignore it. Later that night, Calvin tries to get close to Vanessa. First, he asks her to take a bath with him, then he tickles her and pushes her head down. Finally, Vanessa and Daryl put Calvin to sleep in a crib. In the middle of the night, Calvin wakes up to do his real job. He quietly goes downstairs and calls Percy, but Pops sees him talking like an adult on the phone. Pops gets very suspicious. Daryl also wakes up, but Pops does not tell him anything right away. Pops just thinks Calvin might be hungry, so he gives him a milk bottle. Calvin never gets love and care from anyone before, so when Daryl talks kindly to him, Calvin actually feels very emotional. Later that night, Daryl and Vanessa try to spend some romantic time together, but Calvin watches them from his crib. It feels very weird, but Daryl laughs and says, "He's just a baby, he doesn't understand anything." The next morning, Vanessa looks very happy. She even compliments Daryl for last night, but Daryl gets confused because he knows he didn't do anything special. What they don't know is Calvin actually sneaks into their bed at night. They don't think too much about it and get busy with their day. The next day, Vanessa goes to work and Daryl stays home to take care of Calvin. Calvin finds the right moment to take the diamond back from Vanessa's purse. Now, Calvin just needs to find a way to leave the house. That evening, Daryl takes Calvin to the park. But Daryl doesn't feel very happy because Calvin keeps hitting him in the wrong places again and again. When no one is watching, Percy comes to the park to get the diamond from Calvin. But the people at the park think Percy is trying to kidnap the baby, so they beat him up and chase him away. The diamond actually ends up inside the diaper bag, and Daryl puts that bag in the car's trunk. Calvin sees a chance and drives away with the car. Poor Daryl thinks someone stole both his car and his baby. Daryl asks a woman for a lift to chase his car, but this woman drives like she has 3 or 4 extra lives to waste. It's like she doesn't care if they crash or survive, but somehow they survive, at least for now. After some time, poor Daryl gets very worried and says, "I love this baby more than my own life, even if he's not my own." Finally, a police officer catches the car and Calvin, but the officer also thinks that the thief left the baby inside and ran away. At the same time, Percy accidentally picks up the wrong diaper bag from the park and takes it straight to Walken. Walken searches the bag, but there's nothing inside. Walken gets very angry. He threatens Percy and gives him a small beating too. Then he tells his men, "Follow Calvin and Percy. If they don't bring me the diamond, kill both of them." The next day, Daryl and his friends take Calvin to watch a hockey game. When no one is looking, Calvin takes the diamond out from the diaper bag, but just as Daryl sees it, Calvin quickly swallows the diamond. Everything seems fine until Calvin pokes a girl, causing more trouble at the game. That night, they put Calvin to sleep and decide to throw him a birthday party the next day. At the party, Calvin feels boring, but when it's time to cut the cake, his eyes fill with tears. This is the first time in his life someone shows him so much love. Calvin feels really happy to have such nice parents. At this moment, Pops gets some information from the restaurant. He finds out that Calvin is actually a criminal dwarf. Pops decides to expose Calvin at the party. At the party, Pops gives Calvin a teddy bear as a gift, but Calvin doesn't know there's a hidden camera inside the bear. Later, after the party, Calvin drinks some medicine to help him poop so he can get the diamond out. His trick works, but when Vanessa changes his diaper, she finds the diamond. She thinks Daryl bought the diamond as a surprise gift for her. Vanessa gets very excited and runs to Daryl to thank him. Daryl tries to explain, but Vanessa doesn't let him talk. That night, they go out for a romantic dinner, leaving Pops at home to watch Calvin. After they leave, Pops pretends to play with Calvin, but then slams him on the floor. Finally, Calvin has no choice but to tell Pops the whole truth, but Calvin also threatens Pops to keep it a secret. At the restaurant, Vanessa tells Daryl that she wants to adopt Calvin and make him a permanent part of their family. When they get home, they see Pops trying to kill Calvin. They get very angry and throw Pops out of the house. They take Calvin to their bedroom to sleep with them. Before leaving, Pops tells Vanessa to check the teddy bear. When Daryl looks closely at the bear, he finds the hidden camera. He connects it to the TV and sees a video where Calvin confesses everything. Daryl runs to tell Vanessa, but by that time, Calvin already runs away. We see that Calvin and Percy escape with the diamond. Percy warns that the gangster Walken will never leave Daryl and Vanessa alone because Walken believes they stole the diamond. Calvin starts feeling guilty. He realizes that Daryl and Vanessa are in danger because of him, so he decides to go back and help them. Vanessa goes to look for Calvin, leaving Daryl alone. Just then, Walken and his men arrive and kidnap Daryl. Suddenly, Calvin appears and pretends to be a baby again. The gangsters don't pay much attention to him, but suddenly Calvin beats up all the gangsters one by one. Daryl and Walken also fight, and right then, the police arrive and arrest Walken and his men. The police ask Daryl about Calvin. Daryl realizes Calvin actually came back to help them, so he lies to the police and says Calvin is just a normal baby. Later, the police say Daryl and Vanessa will get a $100,000 reward for returning the diamond. Before leaving, Calvin thanks Daryl for everything and walks away. But when Calvin steps outside, his eyes fill with tears because he knows he will never have such a loving family again. Daryl also feels very sad watching Calvin leave. Finally, Daryl decides to make Calvin a part of their family. A few months later, Vanessa gives birth to a baby, and Calvin and Pops come to see the baby. The funniest part? The baby looks exactly like Calvin. By this, the movie ends here. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like the video.